on our coalition during the last session to encourage them to balance the budget with no additional tax increase, no additional revenue, to maintain the integrity of the rainy day fund. We feel that they did a reasonably good job of that, but we also think that this next session of the legislature is going to be at least as difficult, if not more difficult, to do the same. And we have reconstituted our coalition in order to try to get an early start on that. We believe that there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm going to allow each one of the groups who are represented here, which is our entire coalition, to talk to you about their perspective on this. So beginning, our discussion will be our Texas Public Policy Foundation Director of our Center for Fiscal Policy, County Chair.
Thank you, Arlene. Glad to be with y'all. As you know, as Arlene mentioned, not just last session, but in past sessions, the legislature has done a reasonably good job with what they had to work with. The fact that Texas is #1 in job creation and has one of the best economic environments in the nation is not by accident. That has come about because of action that the legislature in past years has taken. And 2011 is no different from that. You know, balancing the budget with inavailable revenue, no tax increases, not tapping the rainy day fund for spending forward are all positive things. The fact is, there was a problem created by the way they did some of the funding that's going to cause they have to look for some additional revenue in 2013, and that is some of the delays, the public education, the one-time funding sources such as early tax collections, underestimating on purpose Medicaid funding, and then using one-time funding of fund balance to write the budget is all items that will have to be rectified, or money will have to be found in 2013 to fill those holes. We've been looking at writing the budget, funding state government as a math issue. And now is the time when we have to start looking at it as a governance issue. What you'll find in here are some recommendations for the legislature to start studying, start looking. We believe it's not too early, 10 months out from the session, to start looking at those issues to reset the footprint of state government. And that's what you'll find in here in our recommendations. It's not the total solution, but it's things that ought to be looked at to reset the footprint so that going forward, we have a government that can be funded. And we'll have several other people be talking to you today about that. We have Michael Quinn Sullivan with Texas for Fiscal Responsibility that will be speaking next.
Thanks, Tom. My name is Michael Sullivan with Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. I'll be very brief. Raising taxes and seeking new revenue sources is off the table for Texas taxpayers and voters, and so it needs to be also for lawmakers. It's not by accident, as Talma just noted, that Texas has become the destination of choice for businesses, entrepreneurs, and job seekers. Government efficiency, not creative financing, is what taxpayers have been and will for the foreseeable future continue to be demanded. Looking ahead to the 83rd legislative session, legislators must demand right now that agencies redouble their efforts to find inefficiencies and to cut costs. Finally, legislators would do well to remember that the right fiscal policy in 2013 is the right political policy in 2012. Reducing the burden of government ensures the long-term strength of the economy for all Texans. Voters consistently report that they want people who will cut taxes and restrain government spending. It's up to those who want to be legislators in 2013 to make that a reality beginning today. It's my pleasure now to introduce Julie Drenner, the Texas Director of the Center for Finance, Insurance, and Real Estate at Heartland Institute. Julie.
Thanks. As I said, I'm Julie Drenner with the Heartland Institute, and the roadmap is very clear. It's very simple. Government must prioritize funding essential government functions only. We must make sure that non-essential services and subsidies are absolutely cut. That is a must. And for us, as we urge the lawmakers, when they look at agencies, they must only ask themselves two questions. Do I reform it or do I eliminate it? Thank you. And now we will have George Rodriguez, the president of the San Antonio Tea Party.
Good afternoon, folks. As president of the San Antonio Tea Party, I'll be a little blunt and I'll be very, very militant because that is our position. We are tired of seeing government, be it state, local, or national, spend our money and spend us into a hole. If you're going to do anything, if there is anything that's ever going to happen with our economy, with our lifestyle, it's got to stop being a government that is a government for nannies, or a nanny government, should I say. We can't continue to do this. Now, I'm sure what's going to happen, I can just tell you right off the bat, what's going to happen is that a lot of the legislators, the liberal legislators, are going to run off to the Hispanic community in particular and scare them. Just like they've got all those people out there scared about women's rights, supposedly, the war on women. I'm sure we're going to hear that about the war on Hispanics. But that's not what it's about. What it's about is whether or not you are going to pay now to have a good time, or to pay now for whatever you've got, and not pay later. And it's the future, our grandchildren, that are being saddled up at the national level, and we can't let that happen at the state level. So folks, we cannot afford, and I say this with all deference to Chuck DeFord, that's going to speak into it. We can't be California. We cannot be California, we cannot be Greece, we cannot be New York. We are Texas in play. Just like everybody has said, somebody has said earlier, that is why we have been strong, that's why our economy has been good, that's why we've got jobs, that's why people are coming. So thank you. I'll turn it over now to Chuck, former Assembly Congressman or California Assemblyman. Thank you.
Well, just like George said, I'm Chuck DeFord, and I'm here from Athens on the Pacific. I was a California State Assemblyman for 6 years, represented about 500,000 people in Orange County, and more importantly to this meeting today, I was the Vice Chairman of the Revenue and Taxation Committee and was on the Budget Committee. There's a lot of similarities between America's largest state and second largest state. There's a lot of things I think that both states do right, and a lot of things that both states could improve upon. But what we're here today for is to understand and to implore our lawmakers to not take the easy path that California has taken. And George alluded to it. When George talked about you can either pay today for things that you're going to get in the future, or you can simply spend and spend and spend and put future generations into debt. That is the path that California has gone. Now, Talmadge had mentioned earlier some of the accounting tricks that Texas has employed recently to balance their budget. And he implored lawmakers not to look at this as a math problem, but as a governance issue. And that is the fundamental choice that I think lawmakers need to make. If you approach it as a math issue, eventually you run out of tricks. You run out of special funds, you run up your credit card, and eventually you're staring at large tax increases. There's a reason why some 2 million Californians left California for other states in the last 10 years, with Texas being the #1 destination. And that reason is because California, relative to Texas, has higher taxes, more burdensome regulations, and a more difficult lawsuit climate. Those are Texas's relative advantages. And we would implore Texas's representatives to improve upon their natural advantage, to encourage business, to encourage productivity in Texas, so that Texas can grow its economic pie. I'd like to say that I'll be followed by Raz Schaefer, who is the Executive Director of American Majority Texas. Thank you.
My name is Raz Schaefer. I'm the Texas Executive Director for American Majority. And I'm here with my colleagues to appeal to the legislature that will be coming forward to the 83rd session. Because we have to have a fiscally conservative budget, one that is consistent with the appeals of the Texas citizens and voters. As I spend my time across the state working with voters from across the state, one of the things I consistently hear is a frustration they have with some of the gimmicks in the budget with the reckless spending in many cases, and with the refusal to balance our budget as a state the same way they have to balance their budget in their homes, sitting at their kitchen table. It's critical we do that. And in order to maintain our position as a magnet, both for economic activity and for population, we have to make these kind of cuts. We have to change the way we approach the budgetary process. And that's the only way we maintain this position as a leader. There's a reason that people have flocked to Texas from across the country to get away from overburdensome regulation and overtaxation. It's because we have the climate here. We have the government, we have the mindset to provide that safe haven for so many people across this country. But we have to continue that leadership. And that's been Texas' position for years. Since we're a republic, we have to continue moving that forward. So the proposals that we lay out here, I hope that the legislature will take them to heart. This is the mind of our organizations, and it's also what I'm consistently hearing from the voters across the state. I hope they'll take it to mind and continue Texas' legacy as a state that's providing leadership as far as economic prosperity moving forward. The next speaker will be Peggy Venable, who's the Texas Director for American Prosperity.
Hello, I want to thank my colleagues for pulling this coalition together. I've been traveling the state talking about economic freedom and came in a little bit late because I had a noon speech across town talking about that. I know we're here today to focus on the state budget, but the fact is our federal budget will soon hit $16 trillion, and local governments in Texas are $322 billion in debt. We are saddling future generations with truly a legacy of debt, and that is not the legacy most of us want to leave them. While our spending has increased 310% between 90 and 2012, population and inflation increased only 132%. And education spending, something you'll be hearing more about on Saturday, has